Yeah, and we're live. All right. What's up? What's up? What's up, YouTube world? It's Legit Hustle here. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the first ever episode of Legit Reacts. Honestly, I never really thought I'd be doing reaction videos, but I like reaction videos. People seem to really like reaction videos, and I figured I could do something a little different with it. So that's what I intend to do. Legit Reacts is about reacting to current economic news, especially anything related to small businesses or technology, since that's what I do. So I'll be reacting to different things that's going on in that world. For those of you who enjoy that type of content, welcome, come on in. As I said, I'm Legit Hustle, and this is Legit Reacts. No, I probably should make this do that. So, as I said, Mike Sanders, aka Mr. Legit Hustle, and I am an automation consultant. I help small business and self-employed individuals save money, save time, and hopefully increase their profits through AI automation. So, if that's the kind of thing you could benefit from in your business or in your efforts in your venture to make money, especially online, anything internet-based, then feel free to holler at me. Or you can check me out on my website. I got to remember that the camera's up here too. It's weird. Or you can check me out on my website below, miyasolutions.net. That's miyasolutions.net. MIYAH solutions.net. So, big trouble in big tech. What's going on in big tech? So, I came across this video on TikTok the other day, and this is a video of Mark Cuban speaking on Bloomberg about the impact that AI is having on the business world and the fact that education and training are not really what's going to make the difference in how this affects people, right? So I wanted to take a listen to what Mark Cuban had to say on this topic before we get started. So let's see what Mark talking about. Oops, let me do that. That's not what I mean to do. Because I don't know what I'm doing. Let's go back to presenting. To present. Give me 1 second, everybody. I'm not sure exactly why it froze. I'm gonna pause this for just a second. Make sure I get this back up. I'm making rookie mistakes, huh? Yeah, making rookie mistakes. So we got it. There we go. guessing I gotta pause it down here. That's what happened. How we gonna run it back? What you think about that? Is that true? Those jobs gone? And that's where I want to pause it at. Okay. Essentially, there'll be more people out of work due to this innovation, right? That's a very important statement because that's an inherent problem with technology. For those of us that work with technology, we probably understand that better than the average person. Reason being is because when you work with technology, by default, the better you get or the better you become at performing whatever task you're working with that particular technology, the less it's going to need you at some point, the less it's going to need human input, right? So that's kind of the point that he's touching on, is that by very default, by nature, the way technology works is the better you get at making that technology perform, the less human input that you're actually going to need. And that's a very important point that I want to remember going throughout this reaction video. All right, let's keep going. Think about it. Think about what he just said. All right. Going back to what I just said, the better the technology becomes at performing a task, the less the human is needed, right? So at some point, things would advance so far that all those previous things that humans used to do that we no longer need humans to do because we've replaced humans with that technology a long time ago, all those industries are gone. And if they're not gone, they're dying, right? That's another inherent problem with technology, is that it's sort of self-destructive by nature, if that makes sense. Yes, it's innovative. Yes, it's creative. But in order to create something new, you got to destroy something old, right? All right, same thing. Let's keep it moving. I agree with that too. All right, so I want to kind of highlight two two points that he made. One was that um, the better the technology gets, the less the human is needed, right? So technology by its very nature kind of cannibalizes itself. Um, the other point that he made that I really wanted to stand out is now I done forgot for what the other point was. But he made two very good points. You can go back and check it out. But the main thing is that I want to take away from this video, Mark Cuban, and the reason why I included it in the presentation is because this is a reputable business person. This is someone who has years upon years of experience, successes, losses, wins, failures at a very high level in business, right? So at that vantage point, you have to look at the economy and things from a little bit broader perspective than you and I might necessarily have to on our level. But it's always good to be able to get a higher vantage point, right? If you need to know what's going on a wider scale, it's always good to have people and resources that you can go to that can give you that higher vantage point that you can't see from where you may necessarily be at. But I do actually agree with him that that I think the future belongs to uh, the people who bring more creative talents, liberal arts, those type of creative skills. I think that's what the future holds, because the technology has advanced to the point that if it can be duplicated with technology and if it can be replicated with technology, it probably has been or will be very soon. The only thing you can't replicate with technology is individual creativity, right? So in the future, as the technology speeds up, personally, I think the real opportunity is going to be for those individuals who find a way to be creative with the technology, kind of merging those two fields together. That's my personal opinion. So I don't know what happened with this one, but I had another video here. Let me see. Let's see if we can get that video back up. No. Well, I had a video that I was going to show of this guy who had recorded himself getting fired remotely. And he was sitting at his laptop and he had a meeting with someone, I guess, probably from the HR department of the company that he worked for. And they fired him, like over the computer, which I'm not laughing at that person's, misfortune or whatever their situation. I just think it's wild that you can get fired remotely like that. Like, you know how people like we joke about getting fired on your day off or stuff like that, you know what I mean? Like it's wild to think you could get fired remotely, man. That sucks. That sucks for real. On a laptop. And then they just tell you that some other person is gonna call you and give you some more bad news. That's ass. That's ass for real, yo. Hey, tech world, y'all gotta do better, man. Y'all shouldn't do people like that. All right, so now for those of us who pay attention to these type of things, and especially if you work in any kind of tech related field or if you're interested in coding, um, and even small businesses, no matter what industry you're in, you should pay attention to these type of things. Again, it's always good to have a good vantage point, a higher vantage point than what maybe we can see at our own level. And do I think that mainstream media is the most credible place for information? No, hell no. I know they're not. But that doesn't mean that there aren't tidbits that can be gleaned from it, that there aren't glimpses of credible journalism sometimes. Very small, few and far between, but it doesn't mean that everything is bogus. So sometimes it's good to, pay attention to what's going on a larger scale, even as a small business. The reason why I named this section is science with there is because it's 2025 and these layoffs did not just start this year in 2025. These layoffs have been going on for the last couple of years pretty strong. So I wanted to play this little clip from CNBC talking about the Magnificent Seven. And if you're not familiar with the Magnificent Seven, those are the seven largest tech companies. I think it's like Facebook, um, X, some other large tech companies. But yeah, let's take a look at what they're talking about. See what I mean? Sometimes it's little tidbits. Like he literally just said what I just said. We should be paying attention to these type of things, right? Because it's one thing for politicians and leaders and business leaders and CEOs to get on TV and say one thing, but we should always be looking at the scene ourselves, not just be in a situation where we got to take one person's word for it. In my opinion, you know what I'm saying? I don't think we should ever put that much trust in any one source of information. You should look other places. So anyway, let's get back to it. Now, for those of you who may see this, whether you're watching live, I'm trying not to look over that way and keep looking at my other screen. But for those of you who may see this live or at a later date, if you're a small business owner, think about the impact that those number of layoffs have on a local economy, on a small business, right? So let's say, you own a small business in um, whatever city that those the 1,900 Microsoft workers get laid off at. I don't know if they're all at one location. They're probably not. They're probably in different satellite places, remote workers from home and whatnot. But let's just imagine that that's 1,900 people in one local area, right? Just imagine what those 1,900 very well paid young men and women, most of them, that income being pulled out of our local economies. Just imagine the impact that that would have on your business if you was a small business in an area that got hit like that, right? You would need to make adjustments. Well, just because it's spread out, and we don't know how much it's spread out. I don't have that information here. I'm not going to make guesses about it. But I'm pretty sure all 1,900 of those workers don't live in 1,900 different cities, right? They probably have a place where there's a few of them here and maybe a few gathered in this city. But when you compound that with multiple companies doing the exact same thing around the exact same time, you can kind of see that it creates the perfect storm or the potential for the perfect storm. And by the perfect storm, I mean um, some kind of financial impact that impacts not just us as small businesses and not just big corporate America, but impacts all of us. That would be sort of a perfect storm, right? If you lose a bunch of um, growth and equity and jobs at the large corporate level, and at the same time you were to have to let go a few people here and there in your local neck of the woods due to that ripple effect. That's what I call like a perfect storm. So again, I say that to emphasize the need that if you're serious about working for yourself, if you're serious about um, being a small business owner, then you probably already know that you have to pay attention to information like this. It might be boring, these dudes might be corny and boring to watch, but they do say some stuff that, you know, we need to pay attention to, the average Joe. Now, I want to stop it just for a second because I want y'all to listen to this dude answer. I'm gonna take it back a little bit. So the question that he asked him, pay attention to the questions that he asked and the answers that this guy gives. It's weird. I'm gonna run it back one more time. I want y'all to I want to really pay attention. So the question is to this gentleman, Sarat, whoever he is, the question is all these things a warning sign? He says warning sign. I probably would have just started off with like, yeah, this is a warning sign. But they gotta say it different. So listen, So this is going back 2 years at least. So the last thing he said is the most important thing he said. He do thinks what they're trying to do is become more efficient. And at the end of the day, yes, that's exactly what it's about. It's about large companies being more efficient. And there are many reasons why companies and businesses need to take a step back and sort of revamp or look at their particular model, processes, workflows, things that they do, and look for ways to be more efficient. Now, efficiency is something that I teach in one of my courses. Efficiency is a is a very powerful metric. It's a very important metric. Efficiency is one of those things that, um, as a self-employed person or a small business owner in any company, anybody in life, you should always seek to be efficient. You should always seek to be able to accomplish the most that requires the least, right? While requiring the least. That's essentially efficiency. And everybody should seek to be efficient. Well, whenever you see large companies like this, especially making moves like this, that's what they're doing. They're looking for ways to be efficient. And of course, now their definition of efficiency is probably more so based on their profit margin, but that's not a bad thing. At the end of the day, every business is there to make money. Even if it's a nonprofit, you have to generate revenue. You have to make money. Um, and making money doesn't mean greed either. So just because of, you're serious about making money and you look for ways to be efficient and better at it doesn't make you greedy. It makes you an astute business person, because that's what you should be doing. The problem gets to be, though, that I don't know if y'all can hear that it's thundering right now, but the problem gets to be that when you're a company as big as a Meta, right? Or I'll give you an even better example. I grew up in a GM family. My dad worked for General Motors growing up. That's how we got to Georgia. We moved here from Flint, Michigan when I was a baby. So a big company like that that employs thousands, maybe tens, hundreds of thousands of people, even in cases, when they start laying people off in order to become more efficient, yes, it's a good thing for the business. But when you're a company that big and you have that many people, 10% of 100,000 employees is 10,000 people. That's a lot, you know. Yes, that helps the company become that much more efficient. Yes, it helps profits. Um, yes, it helps secure the jobs of the remaining 90,000 people. But the economic impact to lots of different people is bigger simply because of the scale of the business, right? So in this situation with these tech companies, the problem isn't so much for us on the consumer end of it. The biggest impact of these decisions is on the actual employees themselves, because now a large portion of them are going to become part of the unemployed market, right? The group of unemployed people. They're going to have to find new jobs. They have to do something to be able to maintain their living now that they don't have that job anymore, right? So that's what I want to talk about next. So what I decided to do was, when I decided to do reaction videos, I wanted to do something that was a little bit different. I didn't want to necessarily um, do just reaction videos like the ones I watch. I feel like this is a more serious topic. This is a topic for more serious minded and focused individuals. So if I'm going to talk to people like that, I shouldn't just maybe talk about what's being said on the news or on social media. but also talk about potential solutions, because at the end of the day, that's what my business is about: finding solutions to small businesses problems. They're what we call pain points. Excuse me. So I want to look at some ways that for the people who are facing unemployment, or dealing with job insecurity because of these type of shifts in company policies in the tech industry. I want to look at a couple things. Personally, I think one of the biggest problems that a lot of people in professions that require a degree, just in my personal experience, one of the problems I think that lies there is that people have kind of been conditioned to put more emphasis on the degree, on the paper, on the I got this degree, when the emphasis should actually be on the skills that you learn, the abilities that you gain from that education, right? Not the degree, not the physical, thing. But for example, if you go to school to become a surgeon, at the end of your training, when you actually become a surgeon, the reason you get hired isn't because you have the paper that says you're a surgeon, right? It's a prerequisite to being hired, but it's not the value. The value is the surgeon, because the hospital or the medical office or wherever that person gets hired at, they need a surgeon. They don't need a doctorate, right? They don't need a plaque. So even in something like coding, computer science, any of those type of majors, the real skill that if you have those types of degrees that you have to understand, I mean, not the skill, the real value is your skill. It's not the degree. Once you understand that, you'll realize that there are many ways that you can apply the skills that you learned, even if the degree itself isn't as desired or valuable on the job market as it once was. You still have the skill, you still have the know-how, you still have the ability, right? And again, this is Legit Hustle. I'm all about being original and being creative and doing your thing, using your talents, your skills, your abilities. That's what Legit Hustle is about. So what I did was I wanted to show you guys just how important services are. Now, I asked ChatGPT to do something for me, to provide me some answers to some questions, but I also made sure that it included the references and citations to the sources of the things that are stated in this. So I didn't want to just do a blanket ask, the AI question, but I try to make sure when it comes to information like this that I actually have things that I can go back and verify, or you guys can go back and verify if you watch something like this, right? So I'm not going to read through all of it. It's just a couple key points that I want to point out on the value of services. One, did you know that the service sector is the dominant driver of modern economies? I know it's not necessarily the flashiest, it's not the most renowned, doesn't necessarily get a lot of praise and glory, but being a service provider is literally the foundation of the modern US economy. In the US, the service sector produces about 79% of national output. Think about that. 79% of the nation's output is based on services, right? It's also responsible for 85% of US employment and makes up 83% of US firms and establishments. This is the service sector, not manufacturing, not making cars, not making cell phones. No, services, right? Services are what drive the economy. Now, as far as measuring the health of the economy, services is a key economic measurement barometer. The services PMI tracks sentiment and activity across service industries. A reading above 50 signals expansion. Below indicates contraction, right? So the services PMI is a scale that they use to measure the health of the service sector. Why? Because again, the service sector makes up 79% of the national output, 85% of employment, 83% of US firms, businesses that start are service based, right? So they literally base services or use services as a basis for judging the health of the economy as a whole. So I'm not going to read this section, but another thing about the service industry is that services are more stable and tend to help provide stability to the economy, even during rough times. Give you an example of that. When the economy starts to contract, right, and people have to decide what they're going to spend their money on, the first thing to go is anything that's considered like a luxury item. Well, I don't have to go eat at Ruth Chris twice this month. I might go once, or you might not go at all. But the things that are luxuries in your life are usually the first to go. Luxury purchases. That means extra vehicles, jewelry, clothes that you don't really need. Those things start to fall off. But those are all, or not all, those are typically manufactured goods. Those are typically things that are retail sold that you have to buy not necessarily one at a time, but you get what I'm saying, right? Services are a little different. I'll use the service industry that I started out in, which was I got into the game as a barber in high school. So in the barbering business, because a lot of your clients are going to be school children, they're going to be college students, they're going to be professional working adults. They still have to get groomed. They might not be going out to eat as much. They might not be looking at buying a new car anytime soon, but they still have to maintain their appearance, right? So even at times when those luxury goods and purchases start to die off and get cut out of people's spending habits because of the economy shrinking and contracting, services then tend to stay much more stable. And that is why they form a basis for judging the health of the economy as a whole. That makes sense? So a couple other things, less capital intensive. Is typically a lot easier to get involved in a service-based business than a manufacturing-based business. The quickest way to really get into a manufacturing type of business in modern times, it would probably be affiliate marketing, where you're not responsible for producing a product. But outside of that type of thing, where it's more sales, if you actually want to start a production of any type of product or sales to someone, it typically requires more money than it does to start a service-based business where you're performing a service. And again, while I mention it, think about that now. The problem that we're talking about is the layoffs that are going on in the technology sector, right? So at a time when those type of jobs are contracting, the best, no, I don't want to say best. I'm trying to learn how to talk on the internet live, y'all, and not overstate things or oversimplify things, and to try to be as accurate when I say things as possible. Plus, those of y'all that know me know I smoke. So sometimes, it take me a little second to get it all together what I'm trying to say. But you know what I'm trying to say, right? But so at a time like this, wouldn't it be wise, I guess I'll say, to maybe look for a way that you can reduce the likelihood that you'll be phased out by a technology? Because most services that we as humans perform for other humans, a lot of them aren't things that can be replicated by a technology right now. And even if it could, like I've seen videos of the AIs that do the eyebrows and the lashes and stuff like that. It looks cool on TV, but coming from the industry, what's the likely? I'm not going to stick my head in no machine and talking about cut me up or line me. I'm not doing that. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like a lot of people probably like me. It's certain things that even if the technology exists for it to be done that way, it's not very likely that people are actually gonna go get it done. Because who's gonna stick their head in a box and let a AI give them a fade and a lineup, man? People ain't doing that. And if there comes a time, which it might come a time when that's a thing, right? But it ain't gonna be no time soon. So the point I'm making is that services are very vital. And anyone that lost their job at one of these major tech companies has the opportunity to work for themselves now, gig work, any type of contract work, any type of freelance work, or you could do your own thing. Because again, the value isn't the degree that you have in computer science. The value isn't that. The value is the skills that you have, right? That's the value. And the caveat on top of that, the diamond on top of that is, see, this is why you shouldn't smoke weed when you go live, Mike. But what was I saying? This is wild, yo. And this is why I don't like doing live videos, because I can't edit stuff like this out. So y'all just gonna have to rock with me, YouTube. It is what it is, man. But yeah, so the caveat on top is your creativity. That's what I was trying to say. The diamond on top is your creativity, right? So if you are a person who has the skills to work at a major tech company, if you're that good with coding, if you're that good with architecture, um, anything that has to do with the internal workings that makes tech, right? You also have your individual creativity. If you can find a way to combine that and um, develop a service based on those things, or maybe a SaaS. You have the skills to develop a SaaS, which again, this goes back to my reason for even bringing up services, is because services are a major part of our economy. They're a huge part. And so for all of you guys who may have lost your jobs in these tech companies that may be doing freelance work from home, shout out to y'all, man. And I guess the message that I want to share with you is that don't ever think you're defeated by something like that, as long as you know the value and what the real value is. And the real value is you. The real value is your skills. The real value is your creativity. So take that, let that step not necessarily be a step back, but be a stepping stone. And it might just be time to go do your own thing. You got the skills, you got the know-how. So that just might be time to go do that. You get what I'm saying? All right, man, I'm gonna get off of here. I'm tired. And like I said, I've been smoking. I'm getting up here forgetting what I was gonna say. But it's all good, man. I appreciate y'all, anybody that came through, come rock out with me. I see my brother Big Dog, Philly OG came through to rock with me for a minute. Shout out OG. Yeah, man. So I just wanted to drop this on y'all. Hopefully, some of you guys who are affected by these changes in the industry, hopefully you'll get a chance to see this. And again, it's just a shout out to you, man. I feel you. Been there before, but the real value is you. Take what you know, take those skills, make them work for you. You know what I'm saying? Do your thing. And with that, this has been first episode of Legit React, man. I check y'all. I guess I'll probably do this maybe every Wednesday or something. I got a couple other live streams I got planned, some topics I want to get into. But I don't want everything on here to be serious. I talk about business and money and stuff like that, but I don't want everything to be serious. I want some of it to be a little bit lighter hearted information. that's just more enjoyable for you guys. So I'll be doing some more reaction videos, maybe I guess on Wednesdays. We'll see. But subscribe to the channel, man. Come back through, check it out, hang out with me for a second. I might been smoking, I might not been. And I might be better composed than I might not be. But we'll see how this goes. I'm just Mike, man. I'm doing me. Again, I appreciate everybody that came through. Check the video out, subscribe to the channel, man. And holler at me later. It's Legit Hustle. I'm out here.